Welcome to APU 5th Sustainable Future Fusion SFF webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cynthia Paul, a business lecturer here at Asia Pacific University and one of the proud advisors of the Sustainable Future Fusion SSF Club. Seeing such a vibrant and engaged audience online with us today is a wonderful, and we would like to continue our journey towards promoting sustainability and environmental awareness. At SFF, our mission goes beyond words. It's about action. We're deeply committed in aligning with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, to educate, inspire, and empower our community in building a future that's not just sustainable, but also equitable and inclusive. Today's focus, we're aligning and shining a spotlight on SDG 10, Reduce Inequalities, in conjunction with the International Day of Person with Disabilities, observed annually on 3rd December. This day highlights the importance of inclusion and the rights of persons with disabilities, PWDs, emphasizing the need to reduce disparities and create a society where everyone, regardless of ability, and an opportunity to thrive. Exciting news, everyone. Sustainable Future Fusion is officially digital. We're thrilled to make the next step in expanding our reach and an impact. A huge shout out to amazing marketing team from APU for making this possible with their dedication and creativity. Our featured talk today is on empowered voices, leading inclusion and sustainability. Now for the highlight of today, our featured talk. This season celebrates resilience, breaking barriers, and fostering inclusion in every facet of life. It's about building a future where diversity and sustainability walks hand in hand. To guide us, we have the privilege of introducing Amanda Kong, a trailblazing advocate for persons with disability, PWDs, in Malaysia. Amanda Kong was born with congenital glaucoma, leading a visual impairment. Despite these challenges, she has become a powerful voice for the PWD rights. A former Outstanding Cambridge Learners Award recipient, she graduated with Class 1 LLB honours from the University of Liverpool in 2016 and became Malaysia's first blind female lawyer in 2019. Currently, serving as a community development manager at Make It Right Movement BAC Education Group CSR arm, Amanda champions PWD rights, diversity, equity, and inclusion. She co-leads the Bar Council Human Rights Committee's PWD Working Group and facilitates workshops on professional development and disability advocacy. Now let's give Amanda Kong a warm virtual welcome as she leads us through this empowering season. Amanda, over to you.
Hi, Cynthia. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
How
First
are
of all,
you?
I'm fine. I would like to thank APU for actually inviting me to be a speaker for this webinar. So, as introduced earlier, I'm Amanda and I'm fully blind. So, I am the first blind women lawyer to be admitted to the High Court of Malaya, and later I will share my journey of why I decided to pursue a career in the legal field and why I moved towards advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities. But as introduced earlier, I am the Community Development Manager of the Make It Right movement, which is the corporate social responsibility arm of the BAC Education Group, and our primary focus is diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) because 50% of the people who work at Make It Right movement are actually persons with disability, like myself. That's why we are very passionate in advocating for DEI, and we do other community service program as well, which I may share later when we are doing the interactive session. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh, wonderful. I mean, I'm very glad to have you on board today because, as I mentioned earlier on, today is a very important day, and of course, every other day as well. But let's make today's webinar an inspiring and transformative experience. I would like the audience to actually ask some questions on the chat, in the comments, so that we can actually post the questions later on. Let me start off by asking you to give us a bit of an insight of how your journey started.
Now, why I decided to pursue a career in law because at a young age, I actually realized that the persons with disabilities in Malaysia are treated differently than anybody else in society because of the stigma that society actually placed on us. Now, whenever a person with disability actually go out, be it a child or a person with disability who is an adult, for those with very obvious disabilities, especially those with physical disability, be it a visual impairment or restricted mobility or persons who are wheelchair bound, the first thing that society do tend to do is stare at them. And this staring actually arises from the stigma that is placed on persons with disability in the sense that society seems to have the perception that persons with disability always needs help or always requires sympathy. So whenever they saw a person with disability, the first thing that they come to their mind is that person is hopeless or that person could not really achieve anything at all. And it is with this mindset that persons with disabilities are excluded. So I realized at an early age, because thanks to my parents, they decided to expose me to society stigma at an early age. They decided to send me to an integrated school where I get to study with students who are from the mainstream, who are not disabled. So studying there made me realize that opportunities and accessibilities are limited for persons with disability. One obvious example is that persons with disability do not have the choice to decide what they can study in school. So I was an excellent student who scored a straight A's for my PMR, and that actually qualifies me to enter the science stream to do all science subjects. But unfortunately, the school actually told me that I'm unable to do that because due to my disability, they do not have the necessary support resources to cater to my needs, or the teachers do not know how to support the needs of a blind student who want to study science subjects like physics, chemistry, and biology. So I'm not giving that opportunity to pursue my higher secondary education in the science stream. So what they told me to do instead was like, can you go to the art stream instead? Because art subjects are easy. So I said, why would I want to go to the art stream where my results actually qualify me to achieve more? So after a compromise with them, I told them I want to take at least one science subject. And in the end, they gave in because I wrote countless letters to the school together with my mom to advocate for my rights. Persons with disabilities should be given the right to equal education. So they let me take up additional mathematics, and I'm actually the first blind student who took not first, the first and only blind student who took additional mathematics for my year 2011 for SPM. And that also, the resources are limited because the teachers there, honestly speaking, do not really have the passion and drive to help a student with disability to excel in the field that he or she chooses. And this actually made me realize that a lot needs to be done for the PWD community to make society change their perception. And that's why I actually choose to pursue a career in the legal field. That also was a challenge because when I applied to many colleges saying that I want to pursue a degree in law, the questions that I usually get asked was, why do you want to study law? Well, are you sure you want to study law? We never heard of a blind student who wants to study law. But fortunately for me, when I call out a BAC or Brickfields Asia College, they actually told me that they already have two blind students who studied with them. So they have a little bit of experience dealing with them. So I'm welcome to enroll. And so my legal journey began with the support from BAC, the excellent support of the lecturers and also a group of dedicated friends. I did my A levels, and then I want to be more adventurous. I took the UK transfer degree program where I'm able to do 2 years of my degree locally. And the last year I went to UK, the University of Liverpool, where I actually realized it's very important for a person with disability like myself to be living independently and to be able to take care of my own needs. That year really taught me a lot. And after that, after obtaining my first class honors degree, I came back and did the certificate in legal practice, CLP. And I was actually one of the first blind students who actually took up a CLP. The Legal Profession Qualifying Board was really unsure of what to expect because no blind student ever took up the Certificate of Legal Practice exam before. But I actually told them that we don't need much. We only need limited resources because I have my own support resources, which I will explain later as we chat. Because as a blind individual, if you take time to be more aware of our needs, really know that we don't need much support because most of the support we already have it ourselves. It's only a matter of accommodating to our needs. And after my CLP, I did my pupillage. For those who didn't know, pupillage is a 9 months period where I, as a pupil, would have to shadow a lawyer, a qualified and experienced lawyer, before I'm able to be admitted as an advocate and solicitor. So after my pupillage, which I did in screen, I was admitted in February 2019 as an advocate and solicitor. And following from that, I realized that there are many accessibility challenges, especially in terms of employment due to my disability. And that is why actually I began my community development journey with the Making Right movement back in April 2019 till present. And this is actually a brief summary of my journey.
Wow, it's really exciting. I mean, I'm so amazed that you have. Can you hear me, Amanda?
Yeah,
Are you,
I can.
yeah, I'm so amazed with such, your journey and what you've gone through and what you. I mean, it really inspires a lot of people. People who are so able to do things and they don't have the motivation to study. I think you become an inspiration to a lot of people. There's a thing that really struck me. So you actually worked in a legal firm,
Yes, I did my pupillage there
and how
for nine
long were you
months.
for 9 months?
9 months. Yeah.
Can you share with me? I mean, this is off the thing that the questions, but could you share with us your journey in that 9 months? What were your challenges that you went through there?
Well, for law subjects, the main challenges is basically accessibility to resources. As you know, a law student requires a lot of reading materials. And for a blind person, actually, now a lot of people may think that blind persons still use braille, but braille is actually obsolete because now with technology, soft copies are available. But getting access to soft copy resources in the legal field is very challenging because of copyright issues. So back in the days when I was studying in university, I usually have to write to the publishers of a textbook 6 months in advance in order to get that copyright permission from them for that particular textbook which I am about to use for my studies. And this extends beyond my studies to practicing as well, because when lawyers are doing research, accessibility to resources also require them to reference various textbooks. But the challenge is slightly different in the sense that because a lot of the large, big firms like Screen actually has their library have access to multiple soft copies and the hard copy books as well. The only challenge is having to scan those books so that I am able to read them. So I need some extra time to scan the resources and go on research pages where web pages are actually, some of the databases are designed in a way which is not accessible for a person with disability like me. So my research capability is also limited due to the inaccessibility of these platforms, and I would need help from people, from my colleagues, to help me go through the database and extract the files that I need. Another thing is courts are not built for persons with disability, especially those who are blind, and also those who are wheelchair bound. Certain courts, because courts like small courts like sessions court don't really have ramp access, so there's still like staircases, which makes movement difficult. And also the court system mainly uses a touch screen where they are registering their case numbers. So the touch screen, the pad, is actually not equipped with voiceover. So what the law firm used to do is that they will send someone together with me when we are doing court cases, or when we are doing case management as pupils, so that that person can help me key in the case number itself. So it is rather challenging in the sense that they would need to make like some reasonable accommodations to accommodate my needs. But other than that, there are really no much challenges because I'm very well versed with technology, and thanks to the advancement, blind individuals are able to navigate through softwares, and also to navigate through web pages using a screen reader softwares, which is basically a software that converts text to speech, for those of you who are curious about it. So whatever which is displayed on the screen is read out to me using the voice from the laptop itself. So I'm able to use the laptop and also the phone like anyone else. So challenges, in the sense when you're talking about challenges, is only accessibility due to the what you call web page design, also resources accessibility for hard copy resources, and also the moving around and accessing the registration system for case management. Other than that, there are really not much challenges at all. Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I've also noticed that there is not much facilities given, or opportunities sometimes given for people who are less able, in terms of spaces, like, for example, buildings, like you just mentioned on. In terms of what do you call it, courthouses. I mean, I know that now that they're actually putting what do you call it, trams. I don't know whether trams are still around there now, but they are trying to get accessibility, right, to
Yes.
people with less able, who are less able. So now, how do we educate? We're not looking at only government, but how do we also educate people around on facilities. I'm talking about maybe the higher authorities, or maybe even the community itself, to have better, to have accessibility for the less able.
When you're talking about accessibility, it's just it goes back to the issue of stigma, because of the stigma that the society placed on persons with disability. So usually, with the assumption that persons with disability cannot do much, so there's a tendency to assume that they won't move around much, or they will just stay at home. So that is why the accessibility system is not really well improved for the community, because the society never thought that a person with disability would be able to travel, or a person with disability would be able to utilize the facilities. Like a simple example would be website accessibility. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of web developers build or design their website without having considered that a person with disability, like a blind person, will access the website because of the lack of awareness that they have. Lifts, for example, in buildings, a simple example would be my own office itself. The building is not owned by the college. We actually rented the building which my office is in. The lifts there are equipped with braille, which is good to help a blind individual know which floor he or she is on. But there is no voice announcing the floor that the lift
Mm-hmm.
goes to. So a blind person like me would have to rely on other senses, like our sense of smell, to tell us which floor are we on, or
Oh.
asking other people about the floor. You see, so when you talk about educating the society, it's not it's more of a creating awareness and changing their mindset to think that a person with disability can actually achieve more than what you call what it seems, because a lot of people tend to assume. So when they assume and they don't ask, they really don't know what a person with disability need. Simple example would be when I go out with my colleagues for lunch, they tend to talk to my colleagues about what I want to eat for lunch instead of asking me directly, because they thought I don't have the capacity to answer them. So my colleagues or my boss would actually just say that you can ask her, she's blind, she's not deaf, she can hear you. So these are some of the ways that you can actually educate the society about being more aware of the needs of person with disability. And another thing that is always noticeable is people usually feel very uncomfortable around a person with disability. They wouldn't know how to approach them or how to talk to them, because the first thing they think is, how do I actually uh, call that person? Can I call him or her the person with special needs, or person who is disabled? Is that a politically correct term to use? So when people are stressed about the terms that are going to address that PWD, they're not talking to that person because they're too stressed over this kind of how to address them, how to interact with them, whether they will be offended or not. There's always the stigma, like I said. So it has to start from removing the stigma before we talk about accessibility.
That's great. That's great, Amanda. I mean, really, it's a very great answer. I've got an audience poll. Maybe we could try out an audience poll. I mean, I'm trying this out for the first time. So the audience poll is: what do you think is the biggest challenge PWDs face in a professional environment? A, accessibility. B, bias and stereotype. C, lack of resources. D, others. And share your thoughts on it. So again, this is an audience poll. What do you think is the biggest challenge PWDs face in professional environment? A, accessibility. B, bias and stereotype, and C, lack of resources, and D, others. Share in the chat, please. Okay, so while this is happening, let me ask you the next question. I think this is from one of our students in APU, Kalen. He's asked, uh, what challenges are you facing when it comes to teaching materials, and also having exams and so on, and law, you have to actually read a lot. So you were saying something about libraries that actually are very equipped with materials, but are they user friendly for people who, in circumstances that is it user friendly or not?
When you talk about teaching materials, I'm very fortunate because BAC, Breakthrough Asia College, back when the time I was doing my degree and also when I was doing my pre-university, my A levels, they actually prepared all the soft copy materials. Like I said earlier, Braille is obsolete. Because can you imagine having law books in Braille?
Oh my
Well,
god.
for those of you who don't know, Braille is basically embossed dots on page on a
Mm.
particular page, and usually they will use thick cardboard. Not to say cardboard is slightly thicker than A4 paper, so that the dots are embossed and the blind people can actually run their fingers along the pages and feel them. So when it is embossed, it tends to be very bulky. To give you an
Mm.
idea, a 10-page A4 size book in your print would be 40 pages of Braille. So can you imagine if, let's say, we have a law book, which is thousand over pages, you would have countless volumes, and carrying them would be very difficult. So I moved towards a soft copy. Soft copy, everything is stored in the laptop itself. So it's easy for me to navigate through the resources. But when you're talking about resources, certain formats like PDF documents are not accessible. So what I need to do is convert them into an accessible format. And the most accessible format of resources for a blind individual is Word documents. But when you talk about Word documents, in the legal field, it's slightly challenging because a lot of books are provided in PDF copies because publishers want to prevent the copyright issues. And when they provide something in Word, it's very easy for people to copy those resources. So that is why it took some time to get the license for the books, like I explained earlier. And once I got the license, because most of the pages are scanned images, I would need to use another software called OmniPage to convert the resources into Word document so that I'm able to read it. So the main challenge would be more time to prepare the resources, not so much as accessibility of resources. Accessibility of resources is in terms of the number of textbooks that I'm able to access or the number of resources based on the website accessibility. But that depends on the website developer and is beyond my control actually. So I just have to work with what I have. But the main challenge is actually the time taken to convert the resources into readable format. But I was thankful because both BAC and also the University of Liverpool, they actually provided me with a note taker and a library assistant, which will actually help me convert the resources into the readable format so that I won't need to spend more time than is necessary and I can concentrate on them. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Our audience have not come back with any of the answers for the earlier poll that I was asking. What do you think is the biggest challenge PWDs face in professional environments? A, accessibility. B, bias and stereotype. C, lack of resources. And D, others. Share your thoughts in the chat. Okay, I've had a question from Meow. I don't know whether it's a real name, but she asked this question, or whoever this person has asked this question. Can you share a defining moment in your career that made you feel particularly proud or accomplished?
Defining moment of my career would be actually, I would say that there are many, but the proudest one, of course, is being admitted as the first blind women lawyer in Malaysia after like so many, what do you call, challenges that I gone through, like I shared earlier. But I would say that what actually defines my journey is when I started my journey, my work as a community development manager at the Make It Right movement. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I'm working in the legal field, I realized that throughout my 9 months of privilege, when I was working through cases, I was in the litigation department where I do civil litigation, working with my supermaster on case files. So I realized that when you actually complete a particular case, the client would be happy because we actually help the client out to resolve the case. But at the end of the day, the added value to yourself would be, of course, there is added value in the sense that, okay, I actually help in this case. But with community service, community development work, whenever we are able to make an impact, it actually adds value to my career as well. An example would be the Make It Right movement actually runs digital literacy workshops for people who are blind and visually impaired. The meaning that we actually teach them how to use technology, because a lot of blind people still uses braille. They don't know what is available out there and what technology can do. So we actually taught them how to use the smartphone or how to use the laptop to go online, to basically teaching them the apps that they can use for independent living. And I remember clearly there's this adult blind man who lost his sight when he was 40. And at first he was very reluctant because he said, what can I, he has a job as well, but he uh, is unemployed after he lost his sight. So he came to us and he said, I don't know what to do because I lost my sight and I feel so bored now. And he didn't have a smartphone back then. So when I first asked him, why don't you get a smartphone? You can do much more. No, I don't want to use technology. I'm used to using the old phone. Let me just use it. I'm not using it for a lot of things anyway. That's what he said. But after some convincing from us, he actually got himself a smartphone, an iPhone 8, I remember, because he said, I want to buy a second-hand phone first. I want to try out how is it going. If it's not working, I just want to sell off the phone. So 6 months from after he got the phone, he actually came 2-3 times where I taught him how to use the phone, how to download the basic e-hailing apps like Grab Food, Grab to order transport and food. Also like apps where he can actually watch news and listen to music like YouTube, Facebook, etc. So after that, I never heard from him for 6 months. And after 6 months, I decided to give him a call. So when I called him, he said, thanks for introducing me to the smartphone because I can really do much more. And I'm really, really glad that I decided to take the first step, move out of my comfort zone and listen to you guys. So this kind of moments actually is very defining because it shows that we are able to impact someone's life and actually add value to them. And at the end of the day, it could add value to ourselves as well because we actually help that person to achieve his dream of being able to live independently and not depending on, not depending on, being less dependent on others. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, coming back to technology, I'm sure you use a lot on technology as well, right, to get you around. I mean, what kind of technology tools do you use? I mean, would you like to share with us some tools that you have been using?
Yeah, sure. So very simple, simply speaking, the blind basically needs to listen because they can't see. So most of the tools are voice based. So for
Mm,
example, in your smartphone, we actually have, well, actually everyone has it in their phone, the accessibility features. If you are curious, you can actually explore it because it's built in every phone. It's just that people don't know about it. So when you go to your phone settings, there's this feature called accessibility, and under it for iPhones it's called voice over.
mm,
For people who are using Android phones, it's called talkback. Talkback. So when
mm,
you on that particular feature, your phone will be equipped with voice, and once the voice is available, everything is text to speech. And on laptops, uh, For Apple computers or MacBooks, they have their own iOS softwares, but for Windows computers, they actually have uh, softwares like screen reader softwares like JAWS, 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 or NVDA, Visual Desktop Access, and the narrator, which basically has the same function, text to speech. Now, for
Wow.
blind individual, it's not basically the tools that is important. It's more of accessibility. Like I shared earlier, the website accessibility is limited here because a lot of website providers don't really build their website in accordance to the needs of persons with disability. Some example would be to put captions for images because images like photos we can't see. So it's good to put text describing that particular image if you want to make the website more accessible.
Wow. Okay. I'm sure some of our IT students can start exploring this tool as well, which will be helpful because we're always coming up with new ideas and innovation. One of the subjects that I'm teaching here in EPU. But yeah, thank you very much. And why I actually brought this up was I think Chai Tian Cheng was asking this question: what tools as or tech do you rely on in performing your duty? She was actually mentioning, are you still practicing as a lawyer? Do you do some legal work as well, or you're fully with Make It Right movement? Do you
I'm
read?
fully with Make It Right movement, but from time to time, if let's say my friends say, would you like to help out with some legal research? I do as well, just to keep track with what's the latest legal position out there, you know. But mainly 90% of my work is community development and Make It Right movement.
Ah, nice. And when you talked about litigation, I'm quite familiar with legal standings on. I know convincing is for, sale and purchase of properties and all that, and then there's motor, non-motor litigation, civil, criminal. So litigation deals with what? Civil litigation deals with what?
And basically, litigation is a very wide field. So you have civil litigation, you have conveyancing, like you said, conveyancing is land matters.
Mm-hmm.
Litigation is basically like employment matters, civil claims, like injury matters. That one was back when I was doing my pupillage, but no more. Because when you call litigation, like I explained, the complex processes of like court and all. So
Mm-hmm.
usually now is reviewing like MOA, MOUs, you know, but mostly for the college lah, when we have any collaboration with our partners, just like simple documents per se.
Okay, thank you very much. So, as you talked about using tech, you basically use the tools that you just mentioned, right? Some of the tools
Yes.
to help you out on this. Thank you. And I'm not sure of this name, but this person starts off with D as Hui and says, what advice would you give to other people who are blind and visually impaired individuals considering a career in law? What kind of advice? This is quite interesting. So, if you have somebody to mentor, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Now, a lot of blind persons in Malaysia, let me go back to the stigma that I was referring to, and I'll tell you why I keep on referring to that. A lot of blind people now, if you see a blind person here, so the first thing that come to your mind, usually people, when they see blind people, what are the three top professions that people usually associate with blind people? One, receptionist. Two,
Mm,
doing massage. Or
true.
three, yes, basking by the roadside, you know, singing or selling
Ah,
tissue paper. Isn't that common? I'm sure that
yeah.
most of you will agree when we talk about blind individuals. So that is the first thing that comes to your mind. So with this stigma in mind, a lot of blind people actually lack the confidence to pursue what they want to do. And the second thing is because of the lack of resources. Well, I must say that the non-governmental organizations or NGO, speaking from my own experience, those who are dealing with the blind are not really supportive of the needs of persons with disability because there is 5 blind organizations itself in the brickfields. You have National Council for the Blind, you have Malaysian Association for the Blind, you have National Foundation for the Blind, you have Society for the Blind Malaysia, and They are all in the same square, but each organization has no idea what the other is doing. So there's lack of support resources. And these organizations actually run by persons who are not disabled and very conventional. Most of them still use Braille, and they're not moving away from the conventional method to move towards advancement or technology. So when you want to empower change from a blind individual, change must really come from, like people who are able to provide that support to them. But going back to your question of what advice I would like to give to blind individuals. So if you want to do something, just go ahead and do it. Never say it like, no, you can't do it. You don't say yes as well, because when you say yes, you ended up putting a very high expectation on yourself. Say maybe it's possible. It's not impossible. Maybe it's possible. Like myself, like I said, if I don't advocate for me to take the sub-science subjects like additional mathematics, I would not be given that opportunity. If I don't advocate for an integrated program to be set up and continue in my school back when I was studying, it would never happen. So a blind individual need to actually speak up for himself or herself, and that comes also with the support that they are able to get from the community. It depends. The support is very important, because I'm very fortunate. I have family members who are very supportive, colleagues who are very supportive. A lot of people unfortunately do not have the support, because like I said, due to the stereotype that society have, a lot of parents usually keep their children at home, because when they bring their children out, people will stare instead of helping. People will just stare at them, and parents feel uncomfortable. And a lot of when you talk about registration, a little bit of background, when you talk about registration of persons with disability in Malaysia, our law actually does not make it mandatory for a person with disability to register as a person with disability to get the disabled or OKU card. The OKU card actually offers a lot of benefits for a person with disability. You have allowance, number one, and then you get a lot of things like traveling or hospital visits at a discounted rate of 50% discount. But a lot of people are not aware of these benefits. And why? Because they don't register. And why don't they register? Because the minute they get the OKU card, they will be put in a box. People will actually label or stigmatize them. And this is particularly for people with invisible or hidden disabilities, those who are on the spectrum, or what I call neurodiverse community, those who are on the autism spectrum. A lot of their parents don't want to register them, because once they register, it's very hard for his or her child to actually get employment due to their disability status. And when they want to enroll in any programs, if they bring that card, it will automatically be, I would say not automatically, but 50% of the time is a disqualification because of that OKU card.
Yeah. Actually, talking about the OKU card, I know of some people who actually apply for the card, and they are actually do not have, they're not actually OKU. OKU for foreign students means people with disability, and
Yeah.
some people actually have been using that facilities and getting away with it. I think they should start scanning for people with proper disabilities and not just giving it out simply. It must have a proper hospital or a and it has to go through a panel of doctors. SOXO is very,
Yeah,
SOXO is,
the procedure is actually
pardon?
Yeah, the procedure is actually you have to go through a panel of doctors to certify that you are OKU before you're able to get the card. Well, of course, what you call, there are flip sides to it. The other flip side is that if a person is like really disabled, they will really have to go through that hurdle in order for them to get the OKU card. And that will be like burdensome, especially for those of them who are unable to travel like alone, they need assistance. Yeah, so it's actually, basically, I agree with you that the scanning is required, but at the same time, it also burdens those who are really disabled who want to apply for that card.
Yeah, true, true. I've got a question. This is something that I was looking at. Um, what is your role? You've been a role model for so many, right? I mean, I look at your biodata, it really impressed me. If you could change one law or policy to improve the lives of PWDs in Malaysia, what would it be?
I wouldn't say a rule or law, but I would answer your question in both ways. So the first, when you talk about like legal aspect, right, change law. Now the Persons with Disabilities Act is drafted in 2008, and it's already been 16 years. Well, the act is actually drafted because Malaysia actually ratified, or in simple terms, they actually signed the United Nations Convention on the Rights for Persons with Disabilities. And under that convention, basically Malaysia is required to protect and promote the rights of persons with disability. But for the sake of obligation to the UN convention, we drafted the Persons with Disability Act. But the act is fairly useless because throughout my work in the Bar Council, Human Rights Committee, we actually noted a lot of provisions are missing. For example, the most obvious one would be there is no discrimination provision against a person with disability. And there is a blanket immunity against the government for any injuries suffered or any offences committed against a person with disability. Well, to break it down in more layman terms, if let's say I am walking as a blind individual and there is a manhole, I didn't see it. So I trip and then I fall. If I injured myself, I'm not able to bring a claim against the authorities because the act does not provide for it. So that's basically it. There's no discrimination provision. That's it. I applied for a job and the employer, after interviewing me, decided not to give me a job, not for any other reason, but because of my disability. I'm not able to claim for it because there's no discrimination provision against persons with disability. And it is not even in the Malaysian federal constitution, which is our highest law here. So for those of you who are interested, you can look at Article 8. Article 8 actually provides for equality for all. Now, Article 8 sub 2 basically said that everyone should be treated equally and not discriminated on the grounds of gender, race, religion. But guess what? Which category is missing? Disability. It is not there. So there's no discrimination provision against a person with disability. And that's why I said the law needs to be redrafted, which is what the Bar Council Human Rights Committee is actively doing now. We're looking at the new provisions of how we can actually incorporate that provision into the current law. And you ask me if I can change one thing, let's look at practical and short term, would be actually the perception of the society. Now, I always say that people should focus on empathy and not sympathy. Sympathy is basically looking at a person with disability and saying, how can I help that person to actually relieve the person's pain and suffering, which people usually assume that persons with disabilities suffer. Because whenever you see a person with disability, usually most person, sorry if I ask you this question, the first thing they'll do is they apologize because they feel sorry for that person. And that is already a part of the stigma. Instead, focus on, that is sympathy. Instead, focus on empathy, where you actually put yourselves in the shoe of that person with disability and ask yourself, if you are that disabled person, what would you like people to do for you so that you are able to feel that you're included as part of society itself? So one simple example would be if a person wants to hire a person with disability, sympathy would be, I just give that person a job because he or she is disabled. He or she needs the job. I'm doing it for the sake of giving that person a job. Whereas empathy is, I give that person a job. I hire him not based on his disability, but the potential based on his or her skill set. And what can I actually do in my office to accommodate his or her needs? How can I make reasonable adjustments? How can I make him or her feel more included, like including him in lunch or including that person in the social gatherings or outing? How do you make your office more accessible? How do you actually make sure that the resources are accessible to that person in order for him or her to be able to perform the task given without considering, not without considering, having taken into account that disability, but not taking that as a disadvantage, but taking it as an advantage. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's really true. This what you've said is really, really true, and I hope it looks into every part of it. Let's look at the next part. From the perspective, what's the most significant misconception of about PWDs that society needs to address immediately? What do you think needs to be addressed?
The first one always is assumption. People assume what a person with disability needs instead of asking that person what he or she needs. So back when I was studying in Brickfields, back then Brickfields Asian College is in Brickfields, KL. And as most of you all know, Brickfields, KL is an area which is highly populated by the blind community. So my friend who is sitting beside me came to tell me one day after lunch, I tried to help a blind man cross the road earlier, but he rejected my help. Why are your people like this? He asked me that question. So I told him, what did you do? No, I saw a lot of cars are coming, so I just pulled his walking stick to let him out of the way. But that is actually not the correct way to lead a blind individual, because putting yourself in the perspective of a blind individual, if you're not able to see, and out of the blue, a stranger just came and pulled your walking stick, you would of course feel scared, because you do not know who is that person. And of course, you would automatically reject the help of that person per se. So always ask whether a person with disability need help and how you can support him or her, and don't assume that they need help, because when you assume that you need help, you actually make a person with disability feel more vulnerable, because they said, am I that hopeless that people immediately come and help me? you know but unfortunately, majority of the people with disability in Malaysia are already used to this like attitude. So that's why they lack self-confidence and they are not able to actually move out of their comfort zone. You see, so because of this stigma, it makes them feel more vulnerable and they actually look down upon themselves. The second one would be educate yourself on what a person with disability actually needs. And education actually starts from talking and asking questions. A lot of people don't want to ask a person with disability question for the simple reason, like I shared earlier, because they're so scared of offending them. For me, like, it's an educational process where you actually ask a particular question, even though it sounds real stupid, you learn a lot. You actually know how to guide a person with disability. So myself, when I educate others about my disability, I tend to make it in a fun way and to make people more uncomfortable, slightly uncomfortable, because it's a way to stimulate conversation and actually help them learn. So lot of one example would be when people ask me, it's okay lah, you can't see, why you care what color of dresses you're wearing, why do you care what color is it that you're buying? So I said, it's not true, it's a freedom of choice. So if you ask me, why do I dress in different colors even though I couldn't see? So I said, it's okay, I can't see, I dress for you to see. You see, like, when you make it in such a fun way, people tend to feel less awkward, and after a while they will be more open to talking with you. So this is what I and my colleagues usually do. We make fun of each other's disability, and we do it in front of others as well, because we believe that this is the way that we can actually educate people to be more aware of our needs. Because once we do that, people will start asking, oh, you can do this. I never know a blind person can order Grab. I never know a blind person can do that. I never know a neurodiverse individual is able to do that. Yeah.
Great, nice. We should have tea one day. I should
Sure.
come over to have tea one day. Yeah, Amanda, there's some more questions, actually quite a number of questions by student. There's one student who's asked this question. I think it's Oris Chung, who basically asked, who or what has been your biggest source of inspiration throughout your journey?
My biggest person who actually supported me is my mom. My mom actually helped me uh, when I was young. She never gave up on me in the sense that she provided the necessary support. She actually learned Braille, taught it to me at an early age, and take this journey together with me. And until today, also, she's my travel companion, I would say. Now, I'm a very unconventional blind person because I usually do things that people don't do.
Mm.
Blind people don't do, like traveling. So when people ask me, what do you like to do? I like to go traveling. I like to go hiking. If people look at me, why would you like to do that? What can you do? You can't see what. I said, yeah, I can't see, but I can feel. I enjoy sunsets. I enjoy taking pictures, putting it on social media. So they said, oh, your social media doesn't look like a blind person's social media. Or
Mm.
I'm so used to interacting with people who are non-disabled that till one point we actually have a conference and I was making a call to this organization. So when I told that individual that I'm blind, he said, "Oh, you don't sound blind." So I asked him, "How does a blind person sound like?" He said, no, no, they have a certain sound, like I have no idea. I have no idea how a blind person sound like. So when we meet next time, you give me some idea. Yeah, so I would say that my mom is my biggest inspiration, and in work also, I would say that would be the Make It Right movement team, because I remember the first time I actually joined the Make It Right movement, I was very introverted. I'm not as talkative as I am now because I'm very conscious of my disability as well. And before I actually joined the Make It Right movement, I attended an educational conference where I actually met my boss, and I was asked to give a speech about my success, how I managed to get a first class honors degree from Liverpool. See, that time I have to write my notes. I go back to Braille. I write my notes, type it out on Braille. I brought it on stage. I was reading my notes because first it was the first public speaking experience for me. So after finishing that, I came down and then I met my boss, Mr. Brian, and then the first thing that he actually said to me, like people say, "Hi, how are you?" No, he said, "You need to improve your public speaking skills." So I said that, yeah, but I'm scared because it's my first time. He said, "You are blind, but you can't see others. Why are you scared?" So that
Mm.
makes me think, yeah, that's true. And then actually started my journey. I start to move out of my comfort zone, move out of my shell, and now I'm very talkative,
Wow. Yeah,
very
that's good.
interactive.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we have students who do presentation and they're always very scared. So now I should use that
Yeah,
as part of it.
yeah.
I always tell them, imagine that you're in a room, empty room. Yeah, but that would work actually. Um, your journey actually inspired me a lot. There's this movie on Netflix called Srikant Bola. It's actually a person. It's a true story of a guy who actually um, took the step in education and going forth and getting a scholarship to go overseas with all his challenges, and finally he actually opened up his own business, giving empowerment to those people who are less able. And I think that really is an inspiration, and you have been my inspiration for today. I mean, really, with whatever you've said, your journey, your remarkable journey actually. And we are almost end to, actually we got lots more question, but we are almost end to the time. So I'm going to, would you like to say a few words before I send a conclusion? I mean, yeah, would you like to say
So maybe
something?
just one last question, since there's so much questions. Just pick one question since you're
Okay.
curious, and then we will.
Okay, how does the term breaking barriers mean to you, and how has it shaped your life?
When you talk about breaking barriers, basically, my vision of breaking barriers is an accessible community where persons with disabilities included and make they are feel more empowered. For example, websites are more accessible, and then websites are more accessible one. Society stigma is actually more or less removed, or slowly they move away from the perception by looking at abilities rather than disabilities. So that is what breaking barriers literally mean to me, and what people can actually do in the short run to promote this like breaking barriers is, of course, like I said, start off small. Approach a person with disability if you ever came across them on the street, or if you have a classmate with disability. Take the first step of starting a conversation with them and see where that leads you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So, as we come to the end, we'd like to close for today with an inspiring session. We want to extend our deepest gratitude to all of you who have been here for listening and engaging in this meaningful conversation. Together, let's explore the challenges and triumphs of person with less ability and PWDs, and the power of inclusion and resilience. We hope you're walking away feeling inspired and ready to champion inclusivity in your own lives and community. A heartfelt thank you to our phenomenal speaker, Amanda Kong, for sharing your incredible journey and her wisdom with us. Your story, passion, and dedication to advocating PWD's rights have shown us that barriers can be broken and dreams can be realized, and determination and courage. You're a true trailblazer and a beacon of hope for many. Let's end with a quote that beautifully reflects today's message. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Helen Keller. Remember, the journey towards equality, inclusion, and empowerment starts with each of us. Let's continue to build a society where everyone, regardless of ability, can thrive, contribute, and lead. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next Sustainable Future Fusion event. Until then, stay inspired, stay inclusive, and keep making a difference. Thank you, Amanda, for a wonderful
Thanks,
journey.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.